Greymaw Mountain should have stayed dead. That was what the nobles believed. Do not buy land near Greymaw. Do not reopen its shafts. Do not send workers into those tunnels unless you want to pay for coffins. The mountain had swallowed 3 crews in 10 years. Its veins had gone silent. Its lower tunnels were sealed with iron warnings. Even the village at the base had stopped calling itself a mining town. It was just a place where hungry families waited for winter to finish what the mountain had started. And that was exactly why House Varen chose it for Kael. Before he ever saw Greymaw, Kael stood in the great trial hall of his family estate, surrounded by marble pillars, gold banners, and people who already expected him to fail. Around him, young nobles stepped forward one by one to awaken their official talents. A cousin touched the trial crystal and filled the hall with flame. A duke's daughter summoned a hawk made of wind. Then Darius Varen, Kael's older brother, stepped into the center of the hall with the calm smile of a man who had never once been told no. Darius was polished from boots to collar. Silver blonde hair, white and gold coat, sword at his hip, every movement practiced for applause. When he placed his hand on the crystal, golden aura ran down his arm and wrapped his blade like sunlight. The hall erupted. The elders nodded. The merchants clapped. The visiting agents from the Iron Laurel Consortium looked pleased, because House Varen's heir was exactly what they wanted, strong, proud, and easy to flatter. Then Kael was called. He walked past the whispers and placed his hand on the same crystal. Then the crystal dimmed, flickered, and displayed 2 words in pale gray light. Or listening. The hall went quiet. Someone laughed first. Then another person. Then the whole room broke into open mockery. An old ant covered her mouth and said that at least he could find decorative rocks for garden paths. A knight asked if Kael planned to defeat monsters by asking the floor for directions. Darius did not laugh loudly. That would have looked crude. The trial master cleared his throat and announced the rank. F rank. That was all Kael received. No combat class. No visible aura. No noble grade magic. Kael tried to keep his face still, but his hand remained on the crystal, and through it he heard something the others could not. A low, uneven tremor. Not from the trial crystal. From the ore sample under the testing table. It sounded cracked. Stressed. Wrong. And that same wrong sound was the reason Kael had tried to warn his family 3 days earlier. A Varen mine had collapsed. Darius had been there. Workers had been trapped. And now, with the entire hall watching, Darius turned Kael's useless skill into the perfect weapon against him. Darius stepped forward like a grieving brother, even though his eyes were sharp with satisfaction. He told the hall that House Varen had suffered a terrible loss. A support tunnel in the eastern mine had failed. Several workers were injured. The family contract with the Iron Laurel Consortium was now at risk. Then he looked at Kael. He said Kael had been assigned to inspect the ore vibrations before the collapse. Kael had not been assigned anything. He had pressed his palm against the shaft wall and heard a deep grinding note, like a giant tooth about to break. He had begged them to clear the tunnel. Darius had been the one who ordered the work to continue. But in the trial hall, truth mattered less than convenience. House Varen needed a scapegoat. The consortium needed an excuse to keep the contract clean. Darius needed Kael gone before anyone asked why the heir had ignored a safety warning. So Darius raised his voice and asked one simple question. If Kael could listen to or, why had he failed to hear the mine dying? The question landed exactly where he wanted it to land. The merchants frowned. The trial master looked away. Kael felt the shape of the trap close around him. He tried to speak anyway. He said he warned them. He said the support beams were loaded wrong, and the lower vein was not dead, it was grinding against something hollow. Darius cut him off. A noble heir with sword aura did not need to shout. He said Kael was inventing excuses because shame was easier than responsibility. Then he walked to a side table and lifted an object wrapped in cloth. A cracked iron pickaxe. The miners had used it to mark failed shafts. Darius held it out in front of the entire hall. He said every skill had a proper place. And an F-rank miner belonged in a dead mine. The family head did not need much time to decide. His face was cold, not angry, and that hurt more. Anger would have meant Kael still mattered. The sentence was called mercy. Kael would not be executed. He would not be imprisoned. He would be assigned as acting manager of Greymaw Mountain, a condemned territory under Varen control. If he could restore production, his exile might be reviewed. If he failed, House Varen would lose nothing. The hall understood the real sentence. Greymaw was where unwanted people disappeared slowly. Darius placed the cracked pickaxe in Kael's hands. It was heavier than it looked. Then he leaned close enough that only Kael could hear him. He said, "Try not to collapse this one too." Kael wanted to swing the pickaxe into his brother's perfect smile. Instead, he held it until the cracked handle bit into his palm. By sunset, his name had been removed from the family training rolls. By dawn, he was on the road with one pack, one broken tool, and a decree that named him master of a mountain everyone else had abandoned. The road to Greymaw did not look like a road at first. It was a scar of mud and broken stone that twisted through pine forests, old landslide fields, and abandoned checkpoints. Kael passed collapsed toll houses with their doors hanging open. Every mile made the trial hall feel farther away. That should have helped. It did not. Kael kept hearing the laughter. He kept seeing Darius holding out the cracked pickaxe as if it were a crown made for fools. He kept replaying the mine collapse in his head and wondering if he could have forced someone to listen. By the time Greymaw appeared through the clouds, the air had turned cold enough to sting his teeth. The mountain rose like a broken jaw from the earth. Its cliffs were gray-black, jagged, and bare of trees. Old mine tracks ran from its base like rusted veins. The main gate stood half open under a carved stone arch, but one side of the arch had split down the middle, leaving the warning sign tilted toward the mud. Below it sat Greymaw village. Twice as many were empty. The well had a rope, but no bucket. Children watched Kael from doorways with the flat, tired eyes of people who had learned not to expect visitors to bring anything good. The first person to approach him carried a survey rod instead of a weapon. She was a young woman with auburn hair tied back, a leather work coat patched at the elbows, and a brass survey lens hanging from her belt. Her expression made it clear she had judged Kael before he opened his mouth. Mira Thorne. Daughter of the last foreman. Last certified surveyor within 3 valleys. She looked at the Varen ring on Kael's hand, then at the cracked pickaxe over his shoulder. Her greeting was not friendly. She told him nobles only came to Greymaw for 2 reasons. Kael said he had not come by choice. Mira answered that did not make him harmless. She led him through the village anyway, because even distrust had limits when people were hungry. The blocked water channel. The houses with roofs held down by stone because nails had been traded for flour. She showed him the mine office, where old production records ended in a line of red stamps and emergency closures. Then she unrolled her father's maps. The maps should have been simple: main shaft, side tunnels, storage chambers, lower lifts. Instead, there were blank circles all through the mountain. Whole areas where the survey lines curved away, as if the old crews had walked around invisible wounds. Mira tapped one circle near the lower mine. She said her father believed Greymaw was not empty. He believed something under the mountain was sealed. He never came back. Kael looked at the map, then at the mine gate beyond the dirty window. The mountain felt silent from where he stood. But not peaceful. Silent like a room holding its breath. Kael spent his first night in the mine office under 3 blankets that smelled like dust and old smoke. He did not sleep much. Every time the wind moved through the broken shutters, it sounded like the trial hall laughing again. Every time the mountain creaked, his skill pulled at him. Or listening was not like hearing voices. It was not clear words. It was pressure, rhythm, tension, and tiny shivers in stone. Quartz clicked like cold glass. Silver threads sang in thin bright lines. Greymaw had almost none of that. Most of the mountain felt flat. Too flat. The next morning, Kael asked for an inspection. Mira told him the upper tunnels were unsafe, the lower tunnels were sealed, and the best inspection would be looking at the mine gate from a safe distance. Kael said if he had to die here, he wanted to know what was killing him. That got the first real reaction from her. Not trust. Not approval. But something less hostile. She gathered a lantern, chalk, rope, and a survey hammer. Kael brought the cracked pickaxe because it was the only tool he had. The tunnel swallowed sound. Their boots scraped over old rail ties and loose stone. Mira moved like she knew every rotten plank by name. She pointed out failed supports, old blast marks, and mineral stains that proved Greymaw had once been rich. Kael listened with one hand sliding along the wall. At first, nothing answered. Then, near the 3rd support arch, he felt a pulse. Faint. Buried. Wrong. Kael stopped. Mira noticed immediately. But the pulse came again, softer than a heartbeat under thick cloth. He pressed his palm to a black ore vein that ran behind the support beam. The stone was cold. Then it tapped back. Once. Kael jerked his hand away. Mira lifted the lantern. No rat. No miner trapped behind the wall. Kael touched it again. This time, the tap came in a pattern. 3 short pulses. A pause. 1 long scrape. Not language. Not yet. But not random either. Mira whispered that they should leave. The mountain answered before Kael could agree. A deep crack rolled overhead. Dust fell across the lantern glass. Then the support arch split. Mira grabbed Kael's sleeve and pulled, but the floor buckled under them. The tunnel groaned like a ship breaking in half. Stones dropped from the ceiling, first in pebbles, then in slabs. Kael swung the cracked pickaxe into a beam to slow his fall. The handle cracked deeper. Mira shouted directions, but the tunnel drowned her voice. Then the ceiling came down between them and the way out. In a few seconds, Greymaw did what everyone said it would do. It buried another variant. After the collapse, there was only dust and darkness. Kael woke with stone pressing against his shoulder and blood warm on his wrist. His ears rang so hard that his own breathing sounded far away. Somewhere nearby, Mira coughed. He crawled toward it, feeling through broken rock until his fingers found the edge of her sleeve. She was trapped under a fallen beam, not crushed, but pinned. The air around them was thin and gritty. Above them, the broken ceiling shifted every few seconds. Mira told him not to move the beam. If he moved it wrong, the rest of the roof would follow. Kael searched for another support. Their safe route had become a stone throat with no exit. Tap. Not falling rock. Tap. Tap. Kael turned his head toward the black ore vein. It was half exposed now, cracked open by the collapse. Blue light leaked from inside like the last glow of a dying coal. Mira saw it too. Kael almost laughed, but there was no air for it. Now the one thing that answered him might be the only thing in the mountain that cared whether he lived. He dragged himself to the vein and pressed his bleeding hand against it. Not one tap. Hundreds. Thousands. A buried rhythm rushed up his arm and filled his skull. It was not speech, but he understood the shape of it. It was asleep under pressure, under seals, under years of being called useless. Kael did not know a spell. He did not know a command. So he gave the stone the only clear purpose in his mind. Hold. A crystal core the size of his fist pushed out of the stone. It was cracked down one side, wrapped in tiny iron threads, and glowing with a single blue eye. Pebbles locked into joints. Shards became fingers. A small bent body pulled itself free of the wall. Mira stared without breathing. The thing looked broken. Then it turned toward the failing beam, planted both tiny feet, and lifted. The beam rose half an inch. Mira gasped as the pressure left her ribs. Kael crawled back, hooked his arms under her shoulders, and pulled. The little golem shook under the weight. But it did not move from its place. Hold, Kael thought again. The golem's blue eye brightened. The ceiling steadied. Kael dragged Mira through a gap barely wide enough for their bodies. The golem released the beam only after they reached the other side. The tunnel collapsed behind them with a roar that should have killed all three. Instead, a smaller side crack opened ahead, pushed apart by moving stone. The golem tapped the floor. 3 short taps. A pause. 1 long scrape. Mira whispered a name from an old survey record. Core 17. Kael did not understand yet. He only knew that the useless skill everyone mocked had just pulled a living worker out of a dead mountain. Core 17 led them through a path that was not on Myra's maps. It did not speak. It tapped. It pointed with one uneven iron finger when Kael chose the wrong turn. Twice, it stopped them seconds before loose ceiling slabs dropped ahead. Mira watched the little golem with the face of someone seeing proof she wanted and feared at the same time. Her father had written about missing core chambers. Old workers had whispered that Greymaw was built around something older than the mine. But rumors did not carry injured people out of collapses. Core 17 did. After nearly an hour, the tunnel opened into a hidden chamber. Resonance stones grew from the walls in clusters, each one pulsing faintly. The chamber was not large, but it felt important, like a heart that had been wrapped in chains and forgotten. Old grooves ran across the floor in circles. At the center stood an empty stone socket sized for something much larger than Core 17. Kael stepped inside and nearly fell to his knees. Not loudly. Then deeper memories, colder and stranger, of stone bodies walking through tunnels before humans had ever carved names into the gate. Mira grabbed his arm. Blood had started to run from his ear. Or listening was not free. Waking a core pulled strength out of him. It pressed sound through nerves that were never meant to hold that much pressure. Kael should have stopped. Greymaw had no grain, no safe work, no legal standing, and no time. Core 17 placed one small hand on a cluster of dull iron-streaked stones. Then it tapped the pattern again. Kael understood enough. He pressed both hands to the wall and gave the sleeping ore a purpose. Mine. The chamber answered. They were smaller than Core 17 and less damaged, built from iron dust, blue crystal, and pieces of old tool heads buried in the wall. They crawled out slowly, looked at Kael, then at Core 17. Core 17 tapped once. The new worker golems turned toward a sealed side vein and began to dig. Not wildly. Precisely. They separated ordinary rubble from living crystal ore, and they moved with the steady patience of workers who have been waiting years for a shift bell. Kael lasted 20 minutes before his legs failed. When he woke in the mine office that night, Mira was sitting beside him with a wet cloth and a face full of questions. The 3 worker golems had brought up enough living crystal ore to fill 2 small carts. But by morning, Mira traded 1 cart to a desperate grain merchant who had avoided Greymaw for years. That evening, every house in the village received flour, beans, salt, and lamp oil. For the first time in weeks, children ate until they were full. The forge was lit with scrap wood and living crystal dust. Kael stood in the square, dizzy and half-deaf, while villagers stared at the little golems stacking ore crates beside the old well. Nobody laughed. Core 17 tapped the ground near his boot. Kael looked down. A pause. This time, he tapped back. A private miracle could keep Greymaw alive for a week. It could not protect the territory. Mira made that clear before Kael let himself enjoy the first real meal in the village. The Royal Survey Office still listed Greymaw as condemned. The Iron Laurel Consortium still controlled most ore buyers in the region. If Kael wanted more than survival, he needed proof nobody could bury. The mountain gave him that chance during a storm. The bridge had been patched too many times and inspected too rarely. Then the center span cracked and dropped into the ravine. Nobody died, but the caravan was trapped on the wrong side with grain, cloth, medicine, and a junior royal surveyor who had been traveling under hired guard. The merchant sent a boy running to Greymaw for help. Mira wanted to wait until morning. Kael looked at the rain, the broken bridge, and the dark line of the ravine. It would definitely mean losing the chance to let outsiders see what Greymaw could do. So he asked Core 17 if the golems could build in rain. The little core tapped twice. Kael decided that meant yes. By lantern light, the worker golems marched down the road with villagers behind them carrying ropes, wedges, and cut stone. Kael touched an exposed vein near the ravine wall and gave it a narrow purpose. For new stone carrier golems pulled themselves from the slope. They were simple, slow, and broad-backed, made to move weight rather than dig. All night, Greymaw worked. Mira marked safe anchor points with chalk. Worker golems cut cracked stone away. Stone carriers hauled blocks from the old collapsed toll house. Core 17 tapped orders from the center, and Kael repeated the patterns with his own hand when the rain drowned the sound. Not royal. The first wagon crossed at sunrise while every merchant held his breath. Then the junior royal surveyor stepped down from the second wagon and walked straight to Kael. He was young, nervous, and soaked to the bone, but he knew what he had seen. He inspected the golem-built supports. He tested a piece of living crystal ore. He wrote down that Greymaw Mountain had produced viable material, restored trade access, and completed emergency infrastructure repair without outside aid. Those words were worth more than 1 cart of ore. They made Greymaw visible. By the next week, the story had spread to inns, markets, and guild counters. A dead mountain had rebuilt a bridge overnight. An F-rank miner had living workers made of ore. And Greymaw was moving again. Rumors travel faster than wagons when money is involved. At first, people laughed at the story. They said scared merchants saw shadows in the rain. They said exhausted men confused village workers for golems. They said no condemned mine could produce living crystal after years of silence. Then the first official copy of the junior surveyor's report reached the district office. After that, nobody laughed as loudly. The report did not declare Kael a hero. It confirmed that Greymaw could support trade under temporary stewardship if future inspections matched the first. Mira explained the legal meaning while Kael sat in the mine office with a headache and a stack of inventory marks he barely understood. A condemned territory could be seized, sealed, or sold. If Kael could prove steady output and local defects, the Royal Survey Office could recognize him as acting warden independent of House Baron's direct management. But it would give Greymaw a shield made of law. For the first time since the trial, Kael felt the shape of a future that did not require begging his family to take him back. Not miracles. So he and Mira began counting everything. How much ore the worker golems could cut before Kael's hearing blurred. How far Core 17 could guide new golems from the chamber. Which veins woke cleanly and which ones responded with broken signals. How long it took living crystal to stabilize after being mined. They learned the first rules of Kael's power the hard way. He needed contact with a vein or core. A golem needed a clear purpose. One early attempt became a twisted pile of crystal legs that collapsed before taking a step. Kael felt guilty until Mira told him guilt did not fix bad engineering. Better commands did. So he made the commands simple. Worker golems had narrow fingers and bright core eyes. Carrier golems were squat and heavy. Brace golems had wide shoulders and locked joints, perfect for tunnel supports. Sorters were tiny, fast, and obsessed with separating ore from waste rock. The forge that had smoked once at sunset now burned every day. The junior surveyor returned with 2 clerks and a guard. This time, he did not arrive by accident. Kael met him at the rebuilt bridge with Mira on one side and Core 17 on the other. The surveyor tried not to stare at the little golem and failed. He asked who commanded the workers. Kael almost said he did. Then he looked at Myra's maps, the villagers' repaired road, and Core 17's tapping foot. He said Greymaw did. That answer confused the clerks, but Mira smiled for the first time. Greymaw received a provisional production seal. It was small, temporary, and easy for powerful men to challenge. And real things could grow. Once Greymaw had food and a seal, Kael stopped thinking like a prisoner and started thinking like a builder. That shift mattered. Before, he had awakened golems only when something was about to collapse, starve, or fail. Now he began asking what each mineral wanted to become when given a clean purpose. Deep in the eastern side tunnel, the workers uncovered a red-black vein wrapped around old support bolts. The iron did not hum like the worker cores. It rang with a blunt steady rhythm, heavy and patient. Kael placed his hand against it and pictured protection, not attack. Shield. The golem that formed was twice as tall as a man, with slab arms and a chest like a furnace door. When Mira threw a hammer at it to test reaction time, the golem lifted one arm and the hammer bounced off hard enough to crack the handle. Kael swayed and nearly fell. Mira caught him by the collar and told him that creating a wall with legs was impressive, but dying after every experiment would slow production. 1 major awakening per day and less lives were at risk. No deep vein contact without Mira present. Kael argued with the rules for about 10 seconds. Then Core 17 tapped the floor in the exact pattern Mira used when she was annoyed. Quartz came next. The quartz veins did not want to carry weight. When Kael touched them, his mind filled with echoes. Hollow spaces, cracks, hidden water channels, pockets of bad air. The quartz golems were sleek and small, with many jointed limbs and clear bodies that caught light. They crawled across walls and ceilings, sending vibration patterns back through the stone. With them, Mira remapped 3 unsafe tunnels without risking a single worker. Basalt followed. Basalt was not delicate. When Kael gave it the purpose build, the mountain produced broad builder golems that could lift blocks 10 men could not move. Within days, Greymaw's first wall rose around the village square. But a real barrier of fitted stone, braced from beneath by awakened supports. Then they found silver thread crystal. It ran through a narrow chamber like frozen lightning. Its sound hurt Kael's teeth, but it was gentle under the pain. When a miner cut his arm on a broken rail, Kael touched the silver thread and asked it to seal. The silver golem that emerged was barely the size of a cat. Greymaw no longer had one miracle. Iron shields. Quartz scouts. Basalt builders. Silver repair cores. And at the center of the worksite, still small and cracked, Core 17 watched them all like an old foreman who had finally received a crew. Power did not make Greymaw rich overnight. It made work possible. A rich lord could spend money until the carts were empty. A working territory could feed itself, fix itself, and defend itself one solved problem at a time. Mira understood that better than Kael. Human crews and golem crews worked side by side. No one was allowed to treat the golems like replacements for people. They were tools, partners, and in Core 17's case, something close to a stubborn supervisor. Old miners taught young workers how to read stone dust. Quartz scouts marked unsafe air pockets. Basalt builders raised retaining walls along the road. Iron shields stood near the gate, not as threats, but as proof that bandits should choose a different valley. Some were former Greymaw workers who had left after the last closure. Some were refugees from debt mines controlled by the Iron Laurel Consortium. Some had skills nobles considered low: charcoal burners, nail makers, mule handlers, stone cutters, rope splicers, cooks, washerwomen, and children old enough to carry messages. Kael saw himself in them. Because they were useful and had been treated like waste. At first, they bowed to him because of his ring. He hated that. The ring had done nothing but get him exiled. So he started meeting people at the gate without gloves, with or dust on his sleeves, carrying the cracked pickaxe like a working tool instead of a shame mark. When one old miner asked what title to use, Kael hesitated. Master felt worse. Mira solved it by saying, "Call him Warden if he earns it." The name stuck before Kael could object. Warden of Greymaw. It sounded too large for him, but each day made it less of a costume. He learned which families needed extra lamp oil. He learned which workers were afraid of deep tunnels and which ones pretended not to be. He learned that leadership was not giving speeches from a balcony. It was knowing the water pump was failing before winter made the problem deadly. The golems changed too. They responded better when crews gave them clear routines. Sorter golems became faster when children sang counting songs nearby. Iron shields turned toward the gate whenever strangers approached. Silver repair cores gathered near the infirmary without being commanded. Core 17 remained the strangest. Mira began recording patterns in chalk. One night, Kael found Core 17 in the hidden chamber, tapping at the empty central socket. It was waiting. Kael placed his hand on the socket and felt a depth beneath the mountain he had not touched yet. Something too large for one exhausted F-rank miner to wake. Not yet. Above them, Greymaw's new wall caught the sunrise. For the first time, the mountain looked less like a grave and more like a fortress being born. The first report reached Darius as a rumor. He ignored it. By the third report, the Iron Laurel Consortium had requested a private meeting. Darius understood danger when it threatened his image. Kael was supposed to fail quietly. Greymaw was supposed to bury him, or at least reduce him to a starving caretaker begging House Varen for support. Instead, merchants were repeating the name Kael Varen with interest. Royal clerks were recording production. Refugees were traveling to a territory the Varen heir had publicly called worthless. The consortium leaders were even more alarmed. They controlled regional ore prices because they controlled scarcity. They decided which mines received loans, which roads received guards, and which survey reports were treated as trustworthy. A dead mountain suddenly producing living crystal was not just an embarrassment. If Greymaw could grow workers from ore, repair infrastructure overnight, and produce crystal without consortium debt contracts, every small territory in the region would start asking why they needed Iron Laurel at all. So the meeting was cold, polite, and poisonous. Darius claimed House Varen still owned Greymaw's mineral rights. The consortium claimed the old safety closure was still valid. Their agents drafted a seizure order that sounded lawful if spoken quickly. It stated that all awakened ore, living crystal, and mineral constructs discovered under Greymaw remained property of House Varen pending senior review. Senior review meant Darius. If Kael resisted, the order allowed armed enforcement to prevent unsafe extraction. Unsafe extraction meant anything the consortium wanted it to mean. Darius wanted to ride there himself with banners, take the mine office, and watch Kael hand over every core. The consortium advised patience. A public seizure might draw royal attention. Buyers who suddenly refused Greymaw ore. Then, if the mountain suffered a new safety incident, the seizure would look like rescue. Darius liked the phrase safety incident. He liked it even more when one guild master placed a small black vial on the table. Ash salt. A mineral poison used to deaden unstable mana veins. On ordinary ore, it was a sealing agent. On living crystal, the guild master suspected it would be much worse. Darius asked if it would kill Kael. Darius answered that perhaps was acceptable. Back at Greymaw, the first sign of pressure was economic. A grain wagon was delayed by hired bandits. A letter arrived with 6 seals and too many claims. It ordered Kael to surrender all golem cores for inspection by House Varen and the Iron Laurel Consortium. Mira read it once and called it theft in formal shoes. Kael read it twice. He had spent his whole life waiting for House Varen to decide what he was worth. Greymaw had no room for that habit. The mountain needed an answer. So did the people who had trusted him. Kael called the village council in the rebuilt mine hall. It was not grand. The council table was made from old door planks. But the hall was warm, lit, and full of people who had chosen to stay. Mira stood beside the maps. Core 17 stood on the table because otherwise half the room could not see it. The letter from House Varen lay open in front of Kael. Mineral rights. Unsafe extraction. Mandatory core surrender. Temporary house supervision. Consortium safety inspection. If they handed over the cores, Greymaw lost its workers, its defenses, its proof, and its future. If they refused, they invited retaliation from nobles, merchants, and hired blades. An old miner asked how many soldiers House Varen could send. Kael said too many. A rope maker asked if the royal seal protected them. Mira said it slowed thieves down. A mother asked if her children should leave before the roads closed. That question hurt. Kael wanted to say yes because it was safe. He wanted to say no because Greymaw needed people. Both answers felt selfish. Anyone who wanted to leave would receive food and escort to the bridge. No shame. No debt. No punishment. Greymaw would not become another mine where workers were trapped by someone else's pride. Then he placed the cracked pickaxe on the table. Not because he wanted revenge on Darius. But revenge could not be the foundation of a territory. Greymaw needed walls, grain, water, law, and people who could sleep without fearing a noble contract would steal their roof. Kael took the response letter from Mira. She had written it in clean legal language, but left the signature line empty. He signed not as third son of House Varen. Not as acting manager. Not as exiled. Kael Varen, warden of Greymaw. Core 17 tapped once on the table. Then the old miner tapped his cup. Then someone else tapped a boot. Within seconds, the whole hall answered in a rough, uneven rhythm that filled the walls. Kael felt the mountain under his feet respond. Iron shield golems rotated at the gate. Quartz scouts mapped every road within 2 miles. Basalt builders thickened the wall and raised stone teeth along the ravine path. Mira organized evacuation routes, food caches, and signal lamps. Kael trained until his hearing blurred, then stopped because Mira stood over him with crossed arms and no mercy. The refusal letter left with a merchant under royal witness. 3 nights later, the Quartz scouts returned with a warning pattern. Not one threat. Several. Men moving without lanterns. Metal tools wrapped in cloth. Saboteurs had entered Greymaw. And they were heading for the resonance chamber. The saboteurs knew enough to be dangerous. They avoided the main gate. They did not attack the wall, the ore carts, or the forge. A forgotten drainage crack led into an old lower tunnel, and from there to a maintenance shaft near the hidden chamber. Only someone with stolen survey notes could have found it. Only someone who understood the new system would know the chamber mattered more than any warehouse. By the time the Quartz scouts detected them, the saboteurs were already inside. Kael ran with Mira, Core 17, 2 iron shields, and a line of villagers carrying lanterns. The deeper they went, the worse the sound became. Greymaw's normal pulse had changed. In the chamber, masked mercenaries were pouring black ash salt into the central vein. The poison hissed where it touched living crystal. The resonant stones along the wall flickered in panic. Worker golems in nearby tunnels froze mid-step, then began to crack from the core outward. Kael shouted for the mercenaries to stop. Another swung a hooked blade at Core 17. An iron shield caught the blow, but the shield golem staggered as poison spread through the floor under its feet. Mira tackled the man with the vial before he could empty the rest. She was not a duelist, but she had grown up around miners, and miners knew how to fight dirty in tight spaces. She drove her survey rod into his knee and sent him crashing into a crystal cluster. Kael reached the central vein and pressed both hands to it. The mountain was no longer humming. It was screaming in patterns too tangled to read. Mine. Carry. Shield. Repair. Every awakened purpose collided at once as ash salt poisoned the shared stone. Kael tried to command repair. A worker golem split down the chest and collapsed. A Quartz scout fell from the ceiling. Core 17 stumbled, blue eye flickering. Mira looked up 1 second too late. Kael moved without thinking. He forced his will into the nearest silver thread crystal and gave it every bit of purpose he had left. Seal. Brace. The silver crystal answered too hard. Silver filaments shot through cracked stone, wrapped around the falling slab, and locked it in midair long enough for an iron shield to shove Mira clear. The backlash hit Kael behind the eyes. Silent. No shouting. No core 17 tapping the floor. Kael fell to his knees with his hands over his ears while the chamber moved around him like a picture behind glass. Mira lived. But several golems lay cracked across the floor, and core 17's core light had dimmed to a weak spark. Kael reached for the mountain and heard nothing. For the first time since his exile, he was truly cut off from Greymaw. Silence changed everything. Kael had hated the ringing pain that came with his power. Now he would have given anything to hear even one bad note from the stone. Mira wrote messages on slate because speaking did not help. The silver backlash had not destroyed his ears completely, she explained, but it had burned out his sense of resonance. Kael read the words 3 times. Then he looked past her to the worksite. Without his listening, Greymaw slowed at once. The golems did not all die. Workers could still mine assigned veins. Iron shields still guarded the gate. No emergency commands through the veins. No reading the mountain's warnings before a tunnel shifted. And core 17 remained cracked and still on a stone workbench, its blue eye barely alive. Kael took that failure personally. Mira did not let him drown in it. She put him to work sorting salvage because sorting did not require heroic self-pity. When he tried to apologize again, she shoved a crate into his hands and wrote, "Apologies are not supports." It saved him anyway. For 2 days, Greymaw rebuilt with human hands first. Villagers scraped ash salt from crystal seams grain by grain. Miners replaced poison supports with ordinary timber. The silver repair cores, weak but functioning, sealed small cracks in golem bodies. Kael watched people he had meant to protect the mountain without him. Instead, it taught him the lesson he had been avoiding. Greymaw could not depend on one boy hearing every stone. If one injury could paralyze the whole territory, then the system was badly built. On the 3rd night, Kael sat beside core 17 in the resonance chamber. He could not hear the tapping, but he could feel it through the bench. Core 17 was still trying to communicate. Kael placed his palm flat on the stone. He called Mira. She brought the chalk records of every pattern core 17 had made since the first collapse. Together, they spread the marks across the floor. But several patterns repeated whenever multiple golems worked well together. Mira saw it first. It is not commanding one golem. Kael stared at the words until the chamber seemed to tilt. Or listening had been the first layer. It let him hear individual memories and wake individual cores. But core 17 had been doing something else from the beginning. It had been coordinating through rhythm, pattern, and purpose. The mountain did not need Kael to hear every vein separately. It needed a language the whole territory could share. The new work began with chalk. Not rare ore. Not noble magic. Chalk, stone plates, tired hands, and core 17 tapping from a workbench. Mira organized the effort like a survey project. Every golem pattern was copied, compared, tested, and simplified. Children learned which marks meant stop, brace, carry, return, danger, and repair. Kael could not hear the resonance, but he could feel whether a command plate carried clear intent when he touched it. So instead of forcing his damaged hearing through the mountain, Kael began shaping purpose into physical patterns other people could use. Greymaw became less dependent on his ears and more dependent on trust. A miner could place a brace sigil near an unstable wall, and brace golems would respond. Mira could direct quartz scouts with a mapped route instead of asking Kael to interpret every echo. A silver repair core could follow injured workers to the infirmary because the path itself carried the repair mark. Then core 17 changed. It happened during a test in the resonance chamber. The cracked little golem dragged itself from the bench and placed one hand on the empty central socket. Kael moved to stop it, but Mira caught his sleeve. Core 17 tapped 3 times. A new one. Every command sigil in the chamber lit at once. The worker golems outside stopped. The iron shields turned toward the mountain. Quartz scouts froze on the walls. Basalt builders lowered their stones. Silver repair cores lifted their heads like animals hearing a distant call. Kael felt the vibration through his boots. He placed his hand over core 17's cracked back and gave the clearest purpose he had ever formed. Led them. The central socket opened. Blue light rose in a column. Broken crystal from damaged golems floated into the air. Iron filings, quartz dust, basalt chips, and silver thread spiraled around Core 17. It became precise. Its cracked core unfolded into a brighter command crystal. A halo of mineral plates formed behind its shoulders. Core 17 tapped once. Every golem in Greymaw answered with one step. Kael did not hear it. He felt it. The chamber floor trembled under a shared purpose that no poison could silence easily and no enemy could steal by capturing one core. Mira wrote the new name in her records. Command Core 17. Kael smiled at that. Core 17 tapped twice, sharply, as if correcting her. Mira crossed out the first line and wrote, Old Core 17, Command Core. By morning, Greymaw moved differently. Not like scattered miracles. Like a living fortress learning its own body. Darius arrived at dawn under 3 banners. The white and gold of House Varen. The black laurel mark of the Iron Laurel Consortium. Behind him came armored retainers, hired mercenaries, dead soldiers, clerks with sealed boxes, and 6 heavy siege machines built for mine suppression. They were ugly things, timber frames, iron teeth, winches, shield roofs, and bolt throwers designed to break gates, collapse tunnel mouths, and terrify workers into surrender. Darius had not come for a negotiation. He had come to make Kael small again. Greymaw's walls were ready. Iron shield golems stood in pairs behind the gate. Basalt builders waited near loose stone piles. Quartz scouts lined the cliffs like glass spiders, reflecting dawn in their bodies. Families had moved to protected shelters inside the mountain. Kael stood on the wall in his torn navy cloak with the cracked pickaxe in one hand. Mira stood beside him with maps, signal flags, and a knife at her belt. Old Core 17 stood at the center of the inner gate, connected to command plates carved by half the village. Darius rode close enough for his voice to carry. He looked at the wall, the golems, the smoke from the forge, and the villagers watching from protected balconies. He announced that Greymaw was under emergency seizure for illegal extraction, unsafe mineral awakening, and refusal to comply with house authority. Kael held up the provisional production seal. Darius held up his forged order. The royal surveyor from the bridge stood among Darius's clerks, pale and furious. His hands were bound, but his eyes met Kael's. That told Kael enough. Darius had forced the survey banner into service. Kael could have shouted accusations. If Greymaw was worthless, why bring siege machines? So did the consortium agents hiding behind their hired shields. Darius's jaw tightened. Kael lowered his hand. Mira signaled the wall. Old Core 17 tapped once into the command plate. The mountain answered through stone, sigil, and purpose. Iron shield golems marched out and locked arms before the gate. The bolt hit the shield wall with a sound like a bell struck by a hammer. The shields held. Greymaw did not attack first. It simply refused to break. Darius had expected frightened miners. He had planned for a gate, a wall, and maybe a handful of strange or servants. He had not planned for a battlefield that obeyed the mountain. The second siege machine rolled forward. Its crew tried to angle the roofed frame toward the gate, but quartz scouts flashed along the cliffside. Their crystal bodies caught the morning sun and focused it into sharp blue-white bursts. Enough to blind. The machine veered left, wheels sinking into mud that had looked solid moments before. Basalt builders had redirected a stream during the night, soaking the ground under a thin crust of gravel. The machine tilted. Stone carrier golems moved in teams, dropped wedges under the wheels, and locked it in place. Then Obsidian woke. Kael had saved that vein because it was difficult. Obsidian did not want to carry, heal, or brace. Breakage. Pressure. Edges. If awakened carelessly, it would create monsters that cut everything near them. So Kael gave it a narrow purpose. Dismantle siege tools. The obsidian golems rose from black seams near the ravine. They were tall, angular, and silent, with blade-like fingers that moved only toward wood, rope, and iron machine parts. They ignored horses. But when they reached the trapped siege machine, they took it apart with terrifying patience. Pins first. Then braces. Then winch teeth. In less than a minute, the machine that had frightened half the valley became a pile of expensive lumber. Mercenaries began backing away. Consortium officers screamed at them to hold formation. Darius ordered an advance on the left flank. Mira had predicted that. Iron shields shifted. Basalt builders opened precut stone channels. The left approach narrowed into a killing lane without killing anyone. Arrows struck shields. Silver repair cores moved through the shelters, sealing cuts and burns before panic could spread. Kael watched the system work and felt something stronger than pride. Relief. Greymaw was not helpless without him shouting every command. The golems understood their purposes. Old Core 17 carried the rhythm through the plates. The mountain did not fight like an army hungry for blood. It fought like a territory protecting its home. Darius saw that too, and it made him reckless. He drew his sword and rode straight toward the gate with golden aura burning along the blade. Retainers followed because they were too loyal or too afraid not to. The iron shields braced. Darius cut through the first outer plate, then the second. His talent was real. In a duel hall, he was everything nobles praised. On Greymaw's ground, talent was only one tool. Kael walked down from the wall and met him before the inner gate. Darius smiled as if the story had finally returned to a shape he understood. A strong brother. A weak brother. He attacked. Kael did not try to outduel him. The mountain caught the blow and answered. Darius's sword came down like sunlight sharpened into a line. Kael raised the cracked pickaxe with both hands. The impact nearly drove him to one knee. Darius leaned in, face twisted with anger that no audience was supposed to see. He said Kael was still hiding behind rocks. Kael looked past him at Greymaw's wall, the villagers in the shelters, Mira holding the signal line, and Old Core 17 glowing at the gate. Then he answered. Yes. A mountain protected everyone standing on it. Darius struck again. Kael stepped back, not from fear, but to place his foot on the command sigil carved into the road. The vibration moved up his leg, through his ribs, into his damaged hearing, and for one breath he felt Greymaw's whole network. Not as sound. As agreement. Darius lunged. The road rose. A basalt hand caught the sword from below and turned the strike aside. An iron shield plate slid between them. Quartz light flashed, not at Darius's eyes, but across the ground, revealing every weak point in his stance. Kael swung the cracked pickaxe low. Not at Darius's head. The stone softened, caught Darius's boot, and locked him ankle deep. Darius tried to tear free. Golden aura flared. But the men were busy staring past him. Greymaw Mountain was opening. Across the cliffs, thousands of blue and gold lights blinked awake. Old seams split. Hidden veins unfolded. The blank circles on Myra's maps burned through the stone like eyes finally remembering where they were. Old Core 17 tapped one command into the central plate. Kael placed his hand on the ground and gave the mountain a purpose larger than any he had used before. Defend Greymaw. Stone towers rose from the slopes. Deep under the mountain, the sealed Guardian network took the shared purpose and carried it through every awakened vein. Then the peak moved. A colossal hand broke from the upper ridge. Another hand rose from the opposite cliff. Shoulders formed from black stone and blue crystal. A chest core ignited with gold light large enough to color the clouds. The mountain titan lifted its head from Greymaw itself, not as a machine, not as a beast, but as a fortress body grown from every ore memory Kael had awakened. SSS. Behind the titan, smaller guardian golems rose from the cliffs, crystal lancers, iron wardens, basalt giants, quartz signal forms, obsidian breakers. Not endless. Not mindless. Enough. Enough to make every siege machine look like a child's toy. The titan did not roar. It knelt. To Kael. To Old Core 17. To Greymaw. Darius stared up with his mouth open, ankle still trapped in the road. Kael did not kill him. The titan reached down, lifted the fallen Varen banner between two fingers, and pressed it into the mud until the gold thread vanished. Then it placed one massive hand between Darius's army and the village. The message was clear enough for every noble, merchant, and mercenary in the valley. Greymaw was not available for seizure. Battles do not end the moment one side loses courage. They end when someone decides what victory means. Kael's victory could have become revenge. The mountain titan could have crushed every siege machine, every banner, every hired soldier, and every consortium clerk. After what Darius had done, many people would have called that justice. Kael looked at the frightened men in the valley and saw workers in armor. Killing them would not build Greymaw stronger. So he gave a different command. The golems moved with brutal control. Obsidian breakers cut bowstrings and machine ropes. Iron wardens collected blades in piles. Basalt builders blocked retreat roads only long enough for surrender to become the safest option. Silver cores treated the wounded from both sides because Mira insisted and Kael agreed before his anger could argue. Darius was pulled from the road by 2 iron shields and placed under guard. His sword was broken, not by Kael's hand, but by the Titan pressing one finger against the blade until the aura guttered out. The royal surveyor was freed next. Mira gave him a writing board before anyone asked why. In front of witnesses from both armies, the surveyor recorded the forged seizure order, the forced use of his banner, the attempted sabotage, the illegal assault, and Greymaw's defensive response. Greymaw Mountain possessed an awakened guardian infrastructure capable of productive labor, civil defense, and controlled military restraint under local command. Mira told him that sentence was ugly. By sunset, the provisional seal became an emergency recognition. Kael Varen was confirmed as Warden of Greymaw pending royal review, with authority over local production, defense, and awakened mineral cores. Iron Laurel's safety authority was revoked within the territory. Darius was removed from command and ordered to answer formal charges. The document was not freedom from every future threat. But it was a wall made of law, and Greymaw knew how to build on walls. That night, the village did not celebrate with luxury. It celebrated with stew, repaired lanterns, and exhausted laughter. Families returned from shelters. Children tried to imitate the Titan until their parents told them not to climb support beams. Iron shield golems stood at the gate while people hung small blue crystals along the road. Kael found Mira near the mine office, staring up at the Titan's sleeping outline against the stars. Kael said Greymaw still needed a captain for the human crews. Mira asked if he was offering her a title. Kael said he was offering her the job she had already been doing. She accepted on the condition that he stopped trying to awaken ancient mountain systems without telling her first. Old Core 17 tapped from the doorway. Kael did not need to hear it to know the golem agreed. For the first time, House Varen's approval felt small. Greymaw's trust felt larger. And that was the reward Kael had actually needed. 3 days after the siege, the Mountain Titan opened its chest. Not in battle. As an invitation. Kael, Mira, the royal surveyor, and Old Core 17 climbed a stairway of newly formed crystal into the Titan's inner chamber. The space inside did not feel like machinery. Gold light pulsed slowly from the central core. Every footstep sent tiny rings across the floor. Not ink. Not paper. 7 mountain shapes glowed across the chamber wall. Greymaw was one of them, bright and steady. Lines connected it to 6 others across the kingdom, north, west, beyond the river basin, under the old capital road, near the salt coast, and deep in a range no current map marked clearly. Mira copied the shapes with shaking hands. The royal surveyor forgot to breathe for several seconds. Kael stepped closer. One of the 6 nodes had gone dark. Not asleep. Dark. The difference pressed against his bones even without full hearing. Old Core 17 placed a hand on Greymaw's symbol, then on the dark mountain, then on Kael's cracked pickaxe. Wake. Kael looked back through the open chest of the Titan. Far below, Greymaw village was alive. Smoke rose from the forge. Children ran beside sorter golems. Iron shields stood guard without fear. This was no longer the place his family had sent him to disappear. It was proof that abandoned things could become foundations. Dead ore. Broken tools. Hungry villages. Mocked skills. Greymaw had taken all of that and grown a fortress. Kael tightened his grip on the cracked pickaxe. He could have replaced it with a perfect weapon from the forge, but he kept it because it remembered where the story started. He told Old Core 17 they would not rush. Train crews. Finish the lower wall. Send lawful reports before the consortium twisted the story. Then they would find the Dark Mountain. Mira smiled and said that sounded dangerously responsible. Kael answered that he had a good captain. The Titan's core pulsed once, warm and deep. For a moment, Kael heard it. Not with his ears. With the part of him that had always known stone was never truly silent. Far below Greymaw, deeper than the mines, deeper than the sealed chambers, something older tapped once against the earth. Not a warning. A call. Kael Varen had been mocked as an F-rank miner because all he could do was listen to ore. Now a mountain had listened back. And somewhere across the kingdom, 6 more mountains were waiting to see what he would wake next.